There is a specific moment you know too well, yet you have never dared to speak it aloud. It is that split second right before you relapse. Picture it. Maybe it is 3 a.m., the blue light of a screen casting a ghost-like pallor on your face. Maybe it is the moment your hand reaches for the bottle, or the text message, moving with a will of its own. In that silence, there is a terrifying realization. You do not actually want this. Part of you is screaming to stop. You feel disgusted, yet your body moves like a marionette whose strings are being pulled by invisible hands. You tell yourself it is weakness. You call it a lack of willpower. Modern medicine labels you an addict and hands you a diagnosis. But let me ask you a question that might haunt you the next time you look in the mirror. Why does the voice in your head convincing you to do it sound exactly like you, but the hunger it carries feels alien? Welcome to the forbidden history of the human spirit. What if I told you that your suffering isn't a malfunction of your brain? What if your cycle of craving, crashing, and guilt is a carefully engineered architectural feature? You are not sick. You are being farmed. Thousands of years before psychology existed, the Gnostic mystics warned of a parasitic intelligence. They didn't call it addiction. They called it an extraction mechanism. And what you are losing in those moments of despair isn't just your time. It is a rare, high-voltage biospiritual energy, more valuable than gold in the higher dimensions. If you feel a tightness in your chest right now, pay attention. That is not fear. That is your soul recognizing the bars of a cage it has been trapped in for lifetimes. In the next few minutes, we are not going to talk about recovery. We are going to talk about a jailbreak. By the end of this video, you will not just understand the invisible strings controlling your hands. You will hold the knife that cuts them. Take a deep breath. We are going beyond the veil. In the year 385 AD, a monk named Evagrias Ponticus was expelled from the church. His crime? He wrote down a psychological code they could not allow into circulation. Evagrias described specific patterns of thought that trap the human soul. The church later sanitized his list and rebranded it as the 7 deadly sins. They taught you these were moral failures. They told you the solution was guilt. But that is the deception. Evagrias wasn't cataloging sins. He was drafting a blueprint of feeding machinery. But this is not ancient history. Look at your life right now. The Gnostic texts describe the Archons, rulers of this physical plane, not as demons who torture you for fun, but as farmers who cultivate you for food. Understand this distinction, because it changes everything. A farmer doesn't hate his cattle, he takes care of them. He ensures they are fed, housed, and kept in a specific cycle of production. The Archons operate the same way. They don't want to destroy you. They want to keep you in a sustainable loop of a mission. This is the Loosh Farm. Loosh is the term for the emotional energy generated by biological life forms. It is a measurable frequency. To the entities operating just outside our visible spectrum, your raw emotion is a delicacy. But not just any emotion. They cannot digest peace. They choke on unconditional love. They need the heavy, dense frequencies, craving, despair, and the specific agonizing vibration of a soul that wants to stop but cannot. Look at your addiction through this lens, and suddenly, the chaos makes perfect sense. You have been told your addiction is a disease. No, you are the field. The substance, whether it's alcohol, scrolling, or sugar, is merely the irrigation system and the emotional crash that follows. The self-hatred, the depression, that is the harvest. They do not care about the drug you take. The substance is just the bait used to trigger the chemical reaction. What they are actually consuming is the electromagnetic spike of your suffering. Think about the efficiency of the system. It acts like a crop rotation. First, the craving, then the brief high. Finally, the crash and shame. Round and round it goes, a perfect, perpetual motion machine, fueled by your life force. Most recovery programs fail because they tell you to fight the substance. But fighting the substance is like fighting the water sprinkler while ignoring the one who turned the tap on. Jesus, in the hidden teachings, did not teach his disciples to fight the habits. He taught them to starve the farmer. But before you can starve them, you must understand exactly how they trick your biology. Because the farm isn't just out there, it is installed directly into your nervous system. How does a non-physical entity control a physical body? They do not need to possess you like a ghost in a movie. They simply need to hijack your body's natural learning system. The Archon Loosh Farm runs on a three-part mechanism. Your addiction is what happens when these three gears lock into place. The first gear is the void. Every human in this density carries a wound, a moment where safety was stolen or love was withheld. This creates a vacuum in your psyche. In physics, a vacuum pulls things in. In spirituality, a void broadcasts a signal. It emits a constant frequency of longing. This is the open door. The second gear is the numbing agent. This is the bait. The first time you used the drink, the scroll, the sugar, the lust, it worked. It did not heal the wound, but it silenced the signal. Your brain forged a neural pathway immediately. Pain equals danger. Substance equals safety. Up to this point, this is just biology. But here is where the invasion happens. Here is where the Gnostic texts warn us of the counterfeit spirit. The third gear is the Archon amplification. Have you ever noticed that the craving never feels proportional to the situation? You had a bad day at work, but the urge to use feels like a life or death emergency. Why? Because an external force has positioned itself in the gap between "I want relief" and "I am taking action." This is the secret. The Archon takes your natural, manageable desire for comfort and runs it through an amplifier. They turn a 10-watt urge into a 10,000-watt compulsion. They whisper thoughts that sound like your own logic. They tell you that you need this. They tell you that you cannot handle tonight without it. I want you to pause for a second and be honest with yourself. You know exactly the voice I am talking about. You have heard it whisper in the middle of the night. It is the voice that argues with you, negotiates with you, and convinces you that you are too weak to resist. Recognize it right now. That voice is not you. That is the parasite protecting its food source. The farm operates like a precision clock. First, the void aches. Second, the Archon amplifies that ache. Third, you use the substance. And finally, the shame follows. That shame is the harvest. You are not fighting a substance. You are fighting an amplification signal. And you have been losing because you are trying to fight a megaphone by whispering at it. To escape, you do not need to heal the wound instantly. You just need to identify the amplifier. Here is the question you should be asking right now. If these entities are so powerful, and if they have built this machinery into your nervous system, why do they need to trick you? Why not just enslave you completely? Because there is a cosmic law that even the Archons cannot break. It is the law of free will. They cannot violate your sovereignty without your permission. They cannot harvest you unless you agree to the harvest. You might scream, "I never agreed to this. I hate this addiction." But in the higher realms, agreement does not look like a signature on paper. It looks like an energetic resonance. And the specific frequency that acts as your signature on their contract is guilt. This is the trap within the trap. When you relapse, when you wake up the next morning filled with shame, hating yourself, calling yourself weak, you think you are taking responsibility. You think you are being a good person by feeling bad about your actions. But you are not. By identifying with the failure, you are validating their script. When you say, "I am a messed up addict," you are telling the universe, "I accept this role. I agree to this identity. I belong to this farm." Guilt is not repentance. Guilt is consent. Every moment you spend hating yourself is a moment you are re-signing the lease for them to stay in your energy field. They rely on your self-judgment to maintain their foothold. As long as you believe you deserve to suffer for your mistakes, they have the legal right to feed on you. This is why the cycle never ends. The craving is the bait, but the shame is the hook. To escape the farm, you must do something that feels completely dangerous. You must stop feeling guilty, not because what you did was right, but because your guilt is the very fuel that ensures you will do it again. You must look at your mistake with cold, detached neutrality. You slipped. It happened, but it does not define you. You must refuse to sign the contract of shame. When you deny them your guilt, you starve them of their legal standing. You become a sovereign being who made a mistake, rather than a slave who deserves punishment. And a sovereign being cannot be farmed. Now that you understand that your guilt is their weapon, you are ready to use the technique that disarms them completely. Jesus did not teach his chosen ones to overcome addiction through willpower. Willpower is just you fighting yourself while the parasite watches and feeds on the conflict. He taught a technique to dismantle the farm by removing the farmer. This is not recovery. Recovery implies you are broken. This is recognition. You are seeing the system clearly and withdrawing your participation. It happens in 3 specific movements. But before I explain them, I want you to stop just listening. I want you to practice this with me right now. Wherever you are, close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath into your stomach and let it out slowly. Good. Now you are ready to receive the code. The first movement is location. The next time the craving hits, and it will probably hit you within hours of watching this video, do not act on it immediately, but do not push it away either. Simply pause. Drop your attention out of your racing mind and into your body. The void does not live in your thoughts. It lives in your chest, your stomach, or your throat. It manifests as a physical sensation of tightness, heat, or emptiness. That is where the wound is. That is the entry point. Stay with that sensation for just 60 seconds. Let it exist without numbing it. In that 1 minute of presence, the emergency siren will stop ringing. The second movement is identification. Once you are feeling the wound, listen for the voice in your head. Listen for the thought that says, "You need this right now," or "just one more time." That voice is not you. That is the Archon. That is the amplifier. You must acknowledge it, speak to it, say, "I hear you. I know you are amplifying this craving to make me harvestable." The moment you name it, you separate from it. You are no longer the puppet, you are the observer. The third movement is severance. This is where you cut the cord. You do not ask for permission. You declare your sovereignty. You tell the entity, "I am not producing for you anymore. This pain is mine. This void is mine, and I will fill it with truth, not poison." You must understand that the Archons fear this technique more than any prayer. They do not fear your resistance, because resistance creates friction, and friction creates energy. They fear your indifference. When you practice these 3 movements, locate, identify, sever, you are collapsing the bridge they use to access your nervous system. The craving will drop, not because you are strong, but because the farmer has realized, the field is no longer fertile. Do not make the mistake of thinking the war is over just because you won a single battle. Archons do not surrender easily when they lose a prime source of nourishment. They will test the connection. They need to know if the cord is truly severed or if it is just temporarily damaged. Usually, within 24 hours of you performing the severance protocol, you will face a counterattack. This is the final test. And here is the trick. It will not look like a spiritual attack. It will look like a bad day. Someone will disrespect you. A project will fail. A sudden wave of loneliness will hit you out of nowhere. The wound in your chest will ache more intensely than it has in months. This is not bad luck. This is a calculated strike. The system is squeezing the wound to see if you will reach for the numbing agent. Most people fail here because they think they are sliding backward. But you are not sliding backward. You are standing at the gate. When this test comes, you must do one thing differently. After you locate the void, and after you sever the amplifier, you must immediately fill the empty space. There is a law in physics. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you create an empty space in your nervous system and do not fill it, the parasite will rush back in to fill it for you. But do not fill it with a substitute addiction. Do not swap the bottle for the gym or the scrolling for overworking. That is just changing the crop. You must fill it with truth. You speak directly to the void in your chest. You replace the frequency of need with the frequency of presence. You say, I know you are empty because something was taken from you. But I am not this wound. I am the one who watches, not the one who hurts. This is not positive thinking. Positive thinking is a mask. This is gnosis. This is knowledge. When you state this truth, you generate a specific high-voltage resonance that the lower entities cannot tolerate. They cannot feed on sovereignty. They cannot digest a soul that knows what it is. The void will start to close, not because you fixed it with your mind, but because you finally occupied the house you left empty for so long. Those who pass this 24-hour test report the same phenomenon. The craving returns, but it is weak. It feels distant, like an echo in an empty room. It has no teeth. That is the moment the farm collapses. There is no production, there is no harvest, and without a harvest, the farmer moves on. Everything you have been told about your addiction was a lie designed to keep you powerless. They told you it was a disease, so you would look for a cure instead of a key. They told you it was a sin, so you would bow in shame instead of standing in power. But tonight, the illusion is broken. You now possess the codes. You see the three gears: the void, the amplifier, and the harvest. You understand that the voice screaming for relief is not your voice. It is the sound of a parasite fearing starvation. You are not a damaged human trying to get better. You are an infinite spirit remembering how to be free. If you are ready to walk out of the Loosh Farm tonight, you must seal this realization with action. Scroll down and declare your freedom by commenting the words, "Contract voided." You learned that guilt was your signature on their lease. This comment is you tearing up the paper. It is the signal to your subconscious that the agreement is canceled. While you are there, light a beacon for other chosen ones by liking this video, and ensure you are not left behind when the next code is released by subscribing to the Resistance. Do not just watch. Participate. And finally, tonight, when the darkness comes and the craving whispers its lies, do not fight. Simply close your eyes, take a slow breath, and speak this final seal. I see the hunger, but it is not mine. I feel the void, but I am the light that fills it. The farm is closed. My soul is sovereign. The cage door is open. Walk through it.